The guy in this photo went missing. After he went camping alone, what was found on his camera shocked everyone. Today, I will tell you about the scariest and most frightening incidents that have happened to people while camping. And at the end, you will learn about perhaps the creepiest story of them all. I promise, it will be interesting. Imagine you set out in your brand new RV, heading out for a getaway, far from the city, into nature. Surrounded by nothing but trees, and the only sounds are the birds singing. Agree, it's a paradise delight. It's perfect for taking a break from the hectic and fast-paced city life. And I personally would love to spend time like that, but definitely not where the hero of the first video, which I want to tell you about, spent his time. The thing is, the guy decided to spend the night in the middle of a dense forest right in his trailer. And actually, it's quite safe, since there are no people around and, therefore, no burglars. Only wild animals, which certainly can't open the car door. Unless, of course, you leave it open. And what could possibly go wrong in this camping scenario? It seems like nothing. But just take a look at what this guy managed to capture. In the middle of the night, the man heard some very strange sounds coming from somewhere in the forest. Honestly, I would be really scared if I heard something like that. Because it sounds as if someone is being killed out there in the dark. Or maybe it's a terrifying monster, just like from computer games. In any case, that night turned out to be quite scary for the guy, and I don't know if he managed to fall asleep and get some rest or not. But one thing I can definitely tell you, this video and the sound in it are not fake. The fact is, many animals can make similar sounds, whether it's deer or moose. It's just that because it was night, the man couldn't figure out where the sound was coming from and who was making it. Yes, and the silence outside made it even creepier. In general, if something similar happens to you, there's no need to panic. These are not monsters or ghosts. Although, who knows? Oh yes, how did this story end? In fact, it was all quite boring, as the guy just waited out the night and left the forest. He didn't find anything suspicious or strange at all. Admit it, the previous case was quite creepy and scary, especially that sound, but I found an even more frightening video. And you know what? I can't explain to you what happened in it. In short, the story is as follows. A guy who really loves camping and hiking decided to go for a walk in remote and picturesque places. And his path led to a rock, in which there was a hidden equipped cave. There were already people in it, so he knew for sure that this cave was safe to stay in. Considering that he was traveling on foot, it was literally the perfect place to spend the night. After all, staying in a tent outside is not only cold but also quite dangerous. Why? Oh yes, I forgot to tell you that there are quite a lot of dangerous wild animals around, like coyotes. That's why it's unsafe to stay outside at night. So the guy decided to spend the night directly in the cave. The video clearly shows that there is even a man-made ladder, making it easy to descend. And also that the guy thoroughly checked the place before setting up camp there. But at night, something frightening happened. And this something literally gave the guy goosebumps. Just watch these frames and listen carefully. Did you hear that? That's the sound of that very man-made ladder. The metal chains moved because of something or someone, as if someone was descending the steps. The guy in the video immediately thought that someone had come to him, so he went to check the cave for uninvited guests. And you know what? He didn't find anyone. Here you might argue that it could have just been a gust of wind. And I'll answer you simply. I watched the entire video of this guy and noticed one thing. The weather outside was calm, without any wind. Yes, and he himself notes this in the video. Which means, just like that, this ladder couldn't have moved on its own. And since the guy didn't find a single soul, I just don't know how else to explain this strange sound that we clearly hear. Could it be that ghosts actually exist? Nah, that's nonsense. Write your guesses in the comments. Maybe one of you will uncover this mystery. Well, it's still not enough. Creepy footage. I showed you. Now imagine that you, along with your little daughter, decided to go camping in the forest. You know, to grill some kebabs, enjoy nature, take a walk. But then you hear some suspicious sounds, more like there are some people near you. And you decide to find these people. But what you see will shock you. The fact is, this family stumbled upon a very scary and suspicious place. If the weather were good and the sun was shining brightly, you might think they ended up in some kind of museum or encountered a real installation. Because in the middle of the forest, someone constructed this. Yes, you heard right. Some strange people decided to make the gloomy dark forest even scarier with mannequins. They look like they're straight out of horror movies. It feels like if you turn away, someone will jump on you from behind. But fortunately, for these guys, there was nothing dangerous in this place. Just a bunch of plastic mannequins in scary clothes. Just a very scary place, like a real monster's lair. Nothing special. Phew. Alright, that was real irony. Because if I stumbled upon this place, I would just scream in fear. In fact, my heels would be shining like falling stars in the sky. And these guys decided not only to film all of this, but also to take a little walk. The creepiest part of this video is that when they were heading back to the van, lights appeared on the horizon from some car. And this was in a very remote forest, where there wasn't a soul around, as if a maniac was returning to his base. But fortunately for these guys, they didn't encounter any maniacs. They safely reached their car and quickly drove away from that place to avoid any trouble. Would you be able to spend the night in such an atmosphere? Personally, I wouldn't even approach it just like that, let alone spend the night there. Well, have you recovered from those creepy scenes? Then I'll continue. The next video was posted by a fairly well-known blogger who makes videos about his hikes. And in it, everything seems to be going smoothly. The man covers several kilometers through the mountains and decides to set up a campsite somewhere in a small grove. And this guy is such a pro that he managed to set up a pretty cool tent right on the spot. And starting a fire is a piece of cake for him. But it was during the campsite preparation that he heard some strange sounds. They were coming from one of the mountain peaks. At that time, the man didn't pay any attention to it, thinking it was just a bird. But he was quite mistaken. After dusk had fallen, the blogger decided to go to sleep. Everything was fine, there was no one around, and there were no strange sounds. So he easily fell asleep in the fresh air. But just an hour later, he woke up to some very strange sounds coming from the night forest. According to his description, it sounded like an animal's howl, as if a wild boar or something else was sitting out there in the dark. So the guy decided to check if there was anyone nearby. He took a flashlight and checked all around the camp. But there was no one there. The sounds didn't repeat, so he decided to lie back down and sleep, thinking he had imagined it. And then he woke up again after a short period of time. And now listen carefully to this video. Yes, you heard it right. Someone is walking near his campsite. The scariest part is that this creature was not alone. From the sounds, it seems like it was an animal of small size, comparable to a dog. The blogger also says that these animals make some sounds to communicate. And I think you've already guessed that there are quite a lot of wild animals in this area. Boars, wolves, and foxes. In general, there are really many that can actually harm a person. Fortunately, this guy got away with just a sleepless night and a good scare. But personally, I think he was a hair's breadth away from death. Why? The first time, he could have really woken up from the squeal of a boar, because they scream quite loudly. And it could have happened because predators might have attacked the poor pig. But the second time, it looked as if wolves, or other similar predators, approached this man's camp. And that was, well, very dangerous, because if he hadn't woken up from the sound, the animals could have gotten too close, and it would have been impossible to scare them away. Alright, enough with the scare tactics here. Even though the guy found himself in a scary situation, he's okay. But something quite puzzling happened to the next hero. In short, the guy is also a blogger, but he makes videos about his travels in a jeep through picturesque places. It looks, well, really cool. And the best part is that he even camps inside his car. I've already told you that it's much safer than tents and makeshift shelters. The previous video is an example of that. If the guy had just slept in the car, he definitely wouldn't have faced any threat from wild animals. However, there's one more thing that can really scare you. And this happened to our blogger. As usual, he was traveling in his car through beautiful places and decided to stop somewhere in a field for the night. Naturally, everything in his car was prepared for this. A fairly comfortable bed was set up on the back seat. And also, hardly any light got into the car because of the tinting. So the guy locks up the car, lies down to sleep, and thinks about how his day will go tomorrow. But then at night, a suspicious person in a hood approaches and starts taking pictures of the car. The scariest part is that the guy is inside. The photographer didn't notice him, so he continued doing his thing. The footage from inside shows just how creepy it looks. Agree, if you found yourself in such a situation, you would surely be scared. I definitely would. What if it's some thief or maniac planning to steal your car? That's exactly what I was thinking. The situation is quite creepy and frightening. In the end, the guy decided to scare off the uninvited guest by knocking from inside the trunk. The suspicious person was quite frightened by this and tried to run away as quickly as possible. But still, why did he need the photos of the car? What was he planning to do with them? So many questions and no answers. Share your opinion in the comments. It seems like this video was quite creepy. And can you also say what was the scariest part? I've already told you. After all, what could be worse than those shots with dolls in the middle of the forest? But I assure you, the creepiest, most interesting, and controversial video I've saved for last. So, the next video appeared on the internet a long time ago. In it, a guy decided to go camping and captured something scary and unusual. But the most horrifying part is that he disappeared, and the footage was found by other people. And here's the whole backstory. A guy, tired from work, decided to go relax away from the city into the forest. He took with him a tent and everything necessary for camping, and also a camera. Apparently, he wanted to film picturesque places, but he captured something much more interesting and frightening. At night, when it was completely dark, this guy tried to call his friend to tell him that someone was following him. Sounds creepy, doesn't it? Who or what was following him? It was impossible to understand this over the phone, but by morning, the guy stopped responding. Then a search was organized for him. But it also was not successful, as if this man simply vanished, just disappeared from the earth. But the search team found the camera, and the footage on it horrified. You can surely notice that this guy is out of breath and trying to run away from someone. Moreover, you can hear strange sounds coming from around him. And just before the recording ends, we can make out the silhouette of a terrifying monster. It's much taller than an average person, with gray skin, and it looks as if it's ready to bite your head off. Many might argue that this is most likely video editing. I agree, it looks quite strange and suspicious, as if someone decided to create another scary story for their kids. But in reality, it's true. The guy in the video actually disappeared. He really called his acquaintance in the middle of the night and reported that someone was following him. They really tried to find him, but found literally nothing except the camera and the place where he set up camp. So, could it be this terrible monster really exists? Well, did you get scared by this story? Honestly, these shots impressed me quite a bit. They look pretty believable, and to be honest, I have no desire to check if this monster really exists, but what I would like to do is take a road trip. Yes, with an overnight stay. It seems incredibly cool, interesting, and safe. But here's another piece of evidence that not everything is as good as one would like. In this video, a guy shows that someone approached his car at night, and this someone was quite interested in getting inside. At first, he walked around for a long time, and then he started knocking on the car. And everything would be fine, but the guy was sleeping at that time, so he couldn't prepare for what was happening. He just turned on the camera and started filming the incident. Later, he finally decided to turn on the flashlight to somehow scare off the intruder. But it didn't help. In the end, this person tried to get inside for a while longer, and then eventually left. The guy doesn't know who it was, because he parked his car very far from the road, and there was literally no one around. It sounds pretty scary, but in reality, it's much worse. The fact is, in the morning, The guy left the scene and stopped in a more populated area. Upon getting out of the car, he discovered that not only were there fingerprints from someone touching his car, but also scratches. Could it be that the monster actually exists? You know, the one from the previous video. After all, both videos were filmed in America and not too far from each other. In any case, even if it was a person, the guy was really lucky that they couldn't get inside. Personally, I think that a normal, sensible person wouldn't try to get into a car parked in the middle of the woods in the middle of nowhere. Well, that's all I have for now. But I would like to say a few more words and give some useful advice. The thing is, very few people properly prepare for hiking or camping. Everyone thinks that even if the forest is close to the city or a populated area, it's safe. But in reality, that's far from the truth. Any hike can become very frightening if you don't take any personal protective equipment with you. The thing is, wild animals don't care at all about what kind of tent you have. They can easily enter the camp and attack you while you're sleeping. And it's precisely protective equipment that can save you in such a situation. I go hiking quite often and frequently visit places where there's no one around, so I know for sure that you need to have at least a pepper spray with you. It can even save you from a bear. Keep that in mind. Also, I don't recommend even the most experienced campers to go hiking alone. Who knows what might happen to you at night? Or maybe you'll just get injured or fall, making it impossible for you to move on your own. In short, it's not safe. So what do you think about all these videos? Write your thoughts in the comments. And I want to emphasize once again that the guy who went hiking alone in the mountains was a real pro. After all, he was able to scare off, most likely, an entire pack of predators. By the way, do you know where else pros are needed? In our team. Friends, you have the opportunity to join our team. If you have video editing skills, can voice over videos in Russian, English, and other languages, or write interesting scripts, we would be happy to work with you. Contact us via the Telegram bot. The link is in the description, and thank you for watching.